Have we started? It says live 13 seconds on mine.
Yes, I know. It's just not showing it. Here we go.
Hi. Few technical issues. Technical issues being that we needed to put some books under the laptop to hold it up. So first of all, I'm going to introduce myself, Lorraine Gleeson, hypnotherapist, and I've been a hypnotherapist for, I can't believe it now, 18 years. 18 years ago, I started up my business and I had my little room 101 in my little coffee shop. And I put a little sign up and I had my little diploma, hypnotherapy, available here. And it was like we'd lit blue touch paper because we saw client after client after client. The awful thing was, in my training course, my teacher had not seen me hypnotize anybody. And I always say this on my diploma course on the first day. I will never, ever, ever forget my first client. It was a guy. Fortunately, I've forgotten his name and I have no idea what he looks like because I talked to him for 2 hours. Yep, I was that frightened of not being able to hypnotize him without realizing it. Talking to him for 2 hours, I'd obviously hypnotized him, but I didn't know that 18 years ago. So I set up my practice and we're now doing live streaming and everything else. And I thought, what makes one hypnotherapist more successful than another hypnotherapist? Because, you know, as a teacher myself and as a trainer, I train these lovely, lovely people. And I can't tell just by training people whether they're going to be successful or not. Because the key to being successful, the absolute key, is confidence. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, confidence. And I'm just going to disappear for a moment. I won't be a minute. I said it was a moment. Alexa was playing and she was annoying me in the background. So the absolute key to success is confidence. And on Facebook today, I saw this really brilliant saying, and it said, and it was two therapists, and one was sat down. I'm not very good at this. And there was the experienced therapist, you know, all confident and everything else. And confidence comes with experience. So when you first set up practice, you're not experienced, and you're not well, you're not as confident as you will be 6 months down the line. So the key to being an absolutely successful hypnotherapist is confidence, and it's confidence in your therapy. So there you are with your little training certificate, or whether you go, depending what school you go to, you know, our school, we do a fully accredited diploma. It's not a certificate. So they set up practice with their little certificate, some people with their little diploma, and it takes practice to be confident. So confidence is the key. The other thing is the biggest key, marketing. So when I started my little practice up, it was before the internet. Well, wasn't really. I don't know if you remember the little dial-up things. We didn't have the internet at our cafe, so we didn't have the advantage that people have today. You can promote your businesses online. When I started, it was literally everything was from the ground up, and it was all about advertising, marketing. But now there are so many opportunities to promote your business. You know, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's LinkedIn. There are lots and lots of different places. So I thought I'd tell you my little story, because obviously I've had to get with the times. I'm not overly techy, but there was a time when I couldn't even open an email, and one of my hypnotherapists will say that to you. She sent me an email, must have been about 5 weeks later before I managed to open the email. So the key is marketing, and you've got to market yourself. You've got to spend money on your business. One of the things I say is, the saying money goes to money, it's actually aimed at business people. So when you've got your little diploma, it's no good thinking people are going to go coming knocking your door wanting your services. So you have to put some effort in to let people know that you are actually offering hypnotherapy. Of course, the best form is word of mouth, but word of mouth takes time. So marketing, you need a plan. You know, my lot of the meetings I used to every March, because we have quarterly meetings, I used to focus on doing marketing, but I discovered actually not many of them turned up, and I realized a lot of them aren't really interested in marketing. Well, if you're not interested in marketing and you only want one or two clients a week or anything, that's fine. But if you actually want to be successful and make a business of it, you've got to be good at marketing. And the best people to market your business is you. It's no good paying it out, paying someone to do it. These great big um, companies that say they do all your SEO, they do all your meta tags and everything, because they're not actually interested in your business. So you have to market your business. Now, first and foremost, you're going to need a website. I would imagine most of you here do have websites. And I am going to do a plug about my website guy, Chris at HostCat. So if you go onto any of my websites, whether you go on lorrainegleeson.com or you go on www.hsoh, which stands for Hampshire School of Hypnotherapy.com, scroll to the bottom of the page and you will see designed by HostCat. And if you do get to know me, I never recommend anybody unless I know they're good at their job. And you will be a little bit shocked when you go on and you see how reasonably priced he is, because for a hypnotherapist website, he'll charge up. I've lost track. I think it's about, and Chris, please forgive me if I got your price wrong. I think it's about £180. So you have to have a website. Oh, the links come up there for you. Now, one of the other things that I learned in the very early days is I thought if I paid someone to do my website, that was it. They'd do my website. No, doesn't happen. What actually happens is you have to write your content. So you have to sit there on your computer and you have to write every page. Now I'm going to give you a few clues on what you need to write on your pages. So Google loves content, but it has to be fresh. In the olden days, about 10 years ago, you could go on to my website, you could go to anyone's website, you could cut, copy, and paste and put it on yours. You do that now, you get penalized. So you have to write your content. Now, the way I wrote mine was I opened a little folder and I called it website folder. See, I'm very creative, website folder for my website. And then I wrote a Word document of what I wanted on my website. Now, the most important page is your home page. So, and that has to have a lot of content on it. So I wanted a home page. That's what people are going to land on, is your home page. Now, yes, it's absolutely wonderful. All these pictures of candles and fields and all these seas and these pebbles. Shall I tell you something? Your clients aren't going to a field or a candle or a pebble. What they're doing is they're buying you. So the most important thing on your website is you. So you need a photograph of you, and it doesn't matter. Oh, nearly not mine. Well, actually, you think this is wine. Oh, it's not. It's sparkling. What is it? Elderflower. Because Shelley and I have just had dinner, and I said, if I had a glass of wine and came on here, I'd be drunk because I'm not very good with alcohol. And I just nearly knocked it over, and I'm not drunk. So people are buying you. So you need a photograph of you. If a good photograph of you. So and if you go on any of my websites, you'll see my smiling face. I need to get a renewed photo because I'm 10 years older now, but I like that photo of me. So they want a picture of you because they're landing on the page, and if they like you, that's what they're buying. Yes, they'll love fields and candles and all the lovely other things that people put on their website. So you need a good photograph of yourself. You need that clear so that people can see it when they land on there. You also need a lot of content on that page. And you start off And you need one of the other things I've learned. It's a bit like hypnosis. With hypnosis, we know the 4 rules to suggestion. Um, Always be positive, plenty of repetition, wherever possible. Use visualization, pictures. The 4th rule is be patient, and that rule applies for your website. Repetition. So you have to put the word hypnotherapy or hypnosis. I have been told hypnosis ranks you higher up Google, and I've looked at the stats and I followed that through, but we're not American. I have noticed hypnotherapy in the UK is still the top search for word. So make sure you use both words, hypnotherapy, hypnosis. Now, the other thing that Google loves content, and it wants to give the users the nearest people as possible. So if now, for example, I've got 2 hypnotherapy rooms, one at my home here in Clanfield and one in Portsmouth. So on each page, I put the areas, Portsmouth, Clanfield, and everything else. So make sure when you're writing the content for your website that you are putting all of that information down and you're repeating it. Repetition. Make it interesting, and it has to be fresh, whereas before it didn't. So on my thing, I had my homepage, which I wanted. Then I wanted to do what I treat, and I listed all the things that I wanted to put on my personal site like smoking, weight loss, anxiety, fears, phobias. So I knew each page that I wanted. I then wanted to do charges. There's always debates on charges. Should you say how much you charge? Shouldn't you say how much you charge? Now, with me, whenever I do anything, I do it as if I am the customer or the client. Now, for me, when I do something, I want to know how much I'm going to be charged. And if I see websites where the prices aren't up there, I literally think, well, they're obviously either too expensive or they don't want to share their prices. And could I trust someone that isn't transparent? So for me, I put all my charges up there as clear as day. I will say this, when I do get inquiries from my website, they still don't know how much my prices are, even though they're on there. So I had my price page. The other thing you have is the about you page. And that's when you write about yourself, excuse me. So your journey, make it really personal. With you, what made you become a hypnotherapist? I became a hypnotherapist because I had hypnotherapy. And for me, it absolutely, totally, totally changed my life. I had 4 sessions, and it was the best money I've ever spent. Now, the other thing, when you first start up, I've said the key is confidence. So to me, you have to be confident with what you're charging. Now, you will hear all the business coaches, and I've had loads of business coaches. The first thing every business coach ever tells you to do, put your prices up. You're automatic, but that's we've got to remember business coaches, and I do apologize to business coaches if you're listening. Business coaches have, just like you as a therapist, you have a formula, they have a formula, and the top thing is let's rip everyone off by putting the prices up. When you're new, you've got to be confident at what you're charging. Now, I teach hypnotherapists, and some of them that I teach, I know, are brilliant therapists. But the thing with all the lovely therapists, you see, I'm very fortunate. I'm naturally a businesswoman. I've worked for myself since I was 26 years old. I've had a guest house, I've had a coffee shop, I've had a pizza shop, I've had sold jewelry. So since I was 26, I have never worked for a corporate. Part of why I've never worked for a corporate is I struggle with following rules. Someone referred to me, I'm rebellious apparently, but that's just how I am. So I've naturally brought to the table, when I trained as a hypnotherapist, my business mind. A lot of therapists are therapists and never worked for themselves before. Now, when you work for yourself, you have to sell yourself, which a lot of you find very, very hard. So you'll see other hypnotherapists saying cheap hypnotherapists are rubbish, they're this, they're that, and the other, and it drives me insane because at some point they started their business, they were inexperienced. So I always say start at what you're confident charging. Don't care what other people think of you. The thing with me is I never look at what other people are doing, and I just literally do what I would like done to me. So if I was going to a newly qualified hypnotherapist, I would be thrilled to bits if I was getting a cheaper price. And it's like when I train my lot, I do give them a formula. I teach them exactly how I work. It's why I've ended up with my own training school because I struggled training other people's stuff. Because I I did I paid twice because my first diploma course, and that was a fully accredited one, literally went to class. I used to hate Mondays. Went I'd paid all this, I'm going to swear, all this bloody money for a diploma, and I went in and I copied a flip chart. What I didn't realise then, that school gave me the best, 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 best scripts in the world. Um, but she'd never watched me hypnotise anybody. And as much as I am a business person, I really care about my clients. So I thought, and it was before you had the internet, so I couldn't have gone on and done these lovely CPD courses that all of us trainers run now. It's so easy. You want to learn something, you put it in Google. In my day, you want to learn something, you had to really hunt for it and be really lucky. And I ended up going up to Scarborough and training with Wilf Proudfoot. And that course was all practical. Not there was no theory. So if you'd have done either one of those courses individually, you wouldn't have had a clue what you were doing. But I was lucky, so I had two really good training courses. Okay, I paid double the double the price for my qualifications, but hey, I learned an awful lot. And I amalgamated the two courses together and built my business. But as I keep saying, I was naturally a business person. So I had that confidence to run my own business. So you're about you page. You need to write everything down about yourself. Talk about your journey. So, you became a hypnotherapist because of blah, 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 blah. If you're fortunate enough to have become a hypnotherapist because you had it, that's a lovely story to tell people because people think, well, it worked for you, it's going to work for her. So back to the prices, I would be happy going to someone new at a lot less price. So what you're comfortable with, and there is one of my hypnotherapists, and I'm not going to name her. She was absolutely super, super, super lady to train. And I knew she was really good at this formula that I teach. But she's worked for corporate all her life. She had a good job, good wages, and she couldn't bring herself to charge the proper fee because all through her training, she was off. She did my year course, so she had loads of people she practiced on, and she loved looking. And she's just one of the most lovely, lovely, lovely people in the whole world. And one day we were on the phone and we were chatting, and I said to her, "You do know you're good at what you're doing." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how much would you be comfortable charging with?" Now, bearing in mind at the time, I think I was £70 a session, and this lady, she'd been practicing with people well over a year, but not really charged. Um, I said, "Would you be?" She said, "Well, I don't really know." I said, "Well, what about £10 a session?" And she laughed. She said, 20. I said, "Would you be comfortable charging £20? And she said, "Yeah, but I thought that'd be too cheap." I said, "But would you be comfortable with it?" And she was. And she started charging £20 a session. And I said to her, when I first started, um, the hypnotherapists in my area, they were £45 a session. I went in at 20. So I went in under half price. Okay, her going in at 20 when I was 70 is ridiculous. But what I did is I went up £5 every 6 months. And I said this to my hypnotherapist. I said, all you've got to do is go £5 every 6 months when you feel comfortable. It will not take you long to be charging what you're really worth. And en route, you're getting the experience. So by the time you are the same price as the general hypnotherapists in your area, you'll be confident, you'll be experienced. So the first thing when you're doing your price, so when you are new, you're building your website, you're doing your charges paid, don't say it's a discount. People, I know I send out discounts, but the word introductory offer, because the word discount is a negative word. It means you're discounting yourself. So the 4 rules of suggestion, always be positive. So if you are new and you're building your website and you're doing your prices, put it as an introductory offer. You don't need to say why, but it's an introductory offer. You're new to the area. It could be that simple. So you've got your homepage, your About You page, all the therapies that you want to work for as separate ones, and how much you charge. Now, you can choose to do a blog. Chris, my website guy, will hate me saying this, because a blog is not a paragraph. That's not a blog, that's a text. So when you first start, if you're not very techy, my advice, do not put blogs on your website, okay? And then when you do get more techy, then do a blog. And one of the great things, hypnotherapists, it's so easy for us to blog. The reason it's easy for us to blog is because we're seeing clients all the time and we can blog about our clients. So website, and on your intake form, always put, where did you hear about us? Because whenever you're marketing or whenever you're building a business, you need to know where your clients are coming from. When you've been doing the job 18 years, like I have, you should 90% of your where did you hear about us from should be from a friend. If they're not, rethink your training. But if they are, you're doing fine. But when you're new, very often it will say Google. Now, that's another thing that I've looked into, because I'm naturally a business person. So I checked for a long, long time where my referrals were coming from. And when it said Google, I asked the client, where on Google did you find us? Now, very often when you ask that question, they're more likely to say, oh, Joe blogs down the pub. I was telling him and he said your name. So it wasn't really on Google. I don't question the client like this. So I know it wasn't really on Google. What happened? It was a word of mouth. The other time on Google as well. Now, as hypnotherapists, we have self-governing bodies. There's quite a lot of them. My school is affiliated with 3 of them. The National Hypnotherapy Society. I love that. See, look at that with marketing. They're called the National Hypnotherapy Society, the NHS. You need to take a leaf out of their book. Their marketing skills are off the scale. And GHR, the General Hypnotherapy Register, William Broome, he's absolutely fantastic. If you need any, not hypnotherapy advice, but if you feel stuck with anything, like I remember years ago I was a little bit stuck of the law around children, so I emailed him, and you can't phone him because he's a busy man. So I emailed him and said, look, I'm a little bit stuck. Can you clarify a few points for me? And he did. And so I always find him, and also, as much as he doesn't like doing it, he read my book for me, my book, How to Be a Hypnotherapist, that's available on Amazon, and he wrote a foreword on it. When I phoned him, I said, William, would you read my... Oh, he said, I don't do that anymore. I went, please. And he did. And I thought that was really, really nice of him. So the General Hypnotherapy Register and the Hypnotherapy Association, they're starting to turn a little bit techie now. They're a little bit way behind the other 2. So when you hear Google, and if you are members of self-governing bodies, and the self-governing bodies, I see so often on forums, oh, we pay £70 a year, they're not doing anything. Yes, they are. If you have a look at my last blog, I was talking about how much they do. They check things out for us. One of the things they're very good at is spending a fortune to get their their self-governing bodies up Google. So if you're a member of the General Hypnotherapy Register, the National Hypnotherapy Society, the National Hypnotherapy Association, which are starting to get their act together, and you get a link to your website, so it helps bring you up Google. And I've always kept check on all these self-governing bodies. And the first few years, the National Hypnotherapy Society, I didn't get any referrals from. I do now. I do from the General Hypnotherapy Register as well. So the thing is, their fee, I only need one client, and that will cover their fee, and I'm making money. So they are very useful to helping you to rank up Google. So you've got your website, you've got your web page, you've got sorry, it's noise in the background, it's making me giggle. So you've got your website, you've got your qualifications. What other marketing can you do? Now, this I have asked numerous times. I'm very fortunate. I've met a lot of hypnotherapists all over our country who are successful and make a full-time living as hypnotherapists. And I've asked every single one of them the same question, because the thing is, as hypnotherapists, I see some of the more qualified hypnotherapists, so they think they are the bigger ones. You know, we say we're getting flooded on, and there's too many hypnotherapists. I've never known so much rubbish in my life. The thing as a hypnotherapist, our target market are 9 out of 10 people walking around. 9 out of 10 people we can help with at least one problem. So our market is so big. And the more that when I had hypnotherapy 30 years ago, we were unheard of. Now, so many people have heard about hypnotherapy, and so many people are aware of how important our mindsets are. And so there is a massive market out there, and there's loads of business. And each person is unique. People that come to me, I'm a bit like Marmite. You know, you either like me or you hate me. There's no halfway between. Some people prefer to go to men, some prefer to go to women. So there's lots of factors. So to me, there is enough business for every single person out there. So hypnotherapy there's loads of business. But what I've noticed, the ones that are successful, they all do one thing the same: networking. And if you've not heard of networking, it's about time you did. And networking is how I got my business off the ground. Yes, when I started in my little coffee shop, I was working full time. We built room 101, and I had a little sign in the window, hypnotherapy here, and I had loads of passerbys coming in, and word of mouth slowly got out there. But the coffee shop came to an end, and I had to move out of there. So I suddenly had to start generating my own work. And it was before the internet. And I always remember this guy, Paul Newton. I was at this evening thing, and this guy just started chatting to me. And then he said, I always remember, he said, "So we do Friday for breakfast." I looked at him, I thought, oh my God, how rude. I thought he was hitting on me. I did, "What am I doing Friday for breakfast?" And I said, "Pardon? What are you doing Friday for breakfast? What do you want to know for?" Well, he was running a 4N networking meeting in Fareham. So he wasn't hitting on me at all. He just saw a business opportunity to get me into his meetings, so that it helped his numbers up in the meetings. Do you know, I will never, ever forget that first networking meeting. First and foremost, I didn't realise so many people got up so bloody early in the morning. I'm on the road because the meeting started at 8 a.m. 8 o'clock, I had to be there. I'm usually leaving my home at that time. You know, I was shocked. There was traffic jams. I was in all this rush hour, and I had to drive all the way to Fareham. Actually, it was nearer to Southampton, so it was quite a long drive. And I arrived in this meeting. Oh my God, it is amazing. If you've not done networking, have a go. It is one of the most. You cannot come out of a networking meeting without the biggest smile on your face. I walked into this meeting, Sue Powell, she was ops assistant or whatever she was. She greeted me and she made me feel so welcome. And there were all these people in this room, all positive, all working for themselves. Yes, they want to sell to you, but they were just, it was just, I must admit, that first meeting, because with Lorraine, you all sit down and you get a 30-second round where you say, "Hi, my name's Lorraine Gleeson, I'm a hypnotherapist." I never shook so much in my life. I was so scared having to stand up in front of all these people. But I was listening to all the others in the room and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, oh, I want to buy that. Oh, I want to buy that. Oh, I wanted to buy everything in the room. But that's what it is. It's business meeting. And every successful hypnotherapist that's really, really busy, at some point they've all done networking. So there are the big ones, 4N and BNI. BNI is even worse. You start at 7 o'clock in the morning. Who starts work at 7 o'clock in the morning? But every successful hypnotherapist that I've spoken to that's busy and has a full diary, they all do networking. So you have to sell your business. Now there's lots and lots of free networks. So when you first start networking, my advice would be go to the free ones. Only do not expect to get much business from the free ones because most of the people at the free networking business, they're little, no disrespect to anybody, but they're just little businesses that aren't really, they're not really, some of them are, because I've been to the free ones and I've been motivated to get my business to go. But most of them are there just doing little part-time jobs and they don't have masses of money. But what they do is they support you, they give you great ideas, they're fun, they're interesting, and it starts to build your confidence. So we're back to that word again. What makes a successful hypnotherapist? Confidence. You have to be confident. So it's the same with networking. So if you start on the free ones, and you only have to go to 1 to 2 because most of the people that are networking are really positive, lovely people. They've got their own businesses and they'll say to you, "Oh, Joe, have you heard of this?" And then you'll go off to, and you'll find that your whole week is full of network. You might not have any clients, but it's full of networking. But what you're doing is you're spreading the word. So we've discussed the website, we've discussed networking. Now, the other thing that you will need, I should have brought them down from my therapy rooms upstairs, is your business card. Because you want to hand out your business card. Now, with your business card, oh yes, Vistaprint, you can go on there for absolute peanuts. When you do start networking, people are not impressed with Vistaprint. Not that a business card bothers me, but my advice with business cards is not to go on Vistaprint. The reason I say that is Vistaprint are not going to refer to you. So if you go into your little local printers, you will pay a little bit more. But the difference is you're a small business, they're a small business. You'll start chatting to them. And when you put on your business card that you're a hypnotherapist, oh, they're interested in it. So actually, when they're at the pub with Jane, I've seen to be on a Jane, we're going to have Jane. They're going to be at the pub with Jane, not Joe Blogs, Jane. So when they're at the pub with Jane, and Jane sat there and said, "Oh, do you know, I am so stressed at work. I know a hypnotherapist. I print her business cards." So when you are setting up your business, use small businesses to help you. Yes, you pay a little bit more, but the difference is, I will almost guarantee it, when you get friendly with that person, they will refer to you. So when you go off networking, you want to hand out your business card wherever you can. Now, on the subject of business card, another thing, and this came from Bob Burns. I always remember he told me to do this, and I started to, and this is the thing. I speak to people, I listen to them, because the key, actually, Bob Burns' key to being successful, I asked him, shall I tell you what he said? Well, first of all, I'll tell you 3 things. You've got to do action, action, and action. And it's actually true. Now, when you first start as well, when you've worked with a client, they're happy with your work, and you've got your business cards, you literally say to them, "I've really enjoyed working with you. Would you mind doing me a favour?" And they'll say no. Well, hopefully they'll say no, otherwise you're a rubbish therapist, aren't they? But if they say no, rethink your career. But as long as they say yes, they're happy to do you a favour. Then produce 3 business cards and say to them, "Look, would you mind if you know 3 friends that could do with my help, would you mind giving my business card to them? Action. Oh, action, action, action. That was Bob Burns' advice, and it was his advice about the 3 business cards. Networking. Start off small, then build. Now, the other thing, don't try. Right, testimonials all over Facebook. Ooh, I'm a bit funny about testimonials on Facebook, but that's because I'm old and I tend to think what we do is private. And even though clients don't mind you sharing their stuff, testimonials on my website I'm happy about. I put them on, and by the way, all my testimonials on all my websites, my training ones. Actually, I was going to say my book one. I know, I'm shocked. I've got because my book on Amazon, and I say, oh, I said to Shelley, I've got some testimonials. She thinks I'm hilarious because I don't read them. I have nothing to do with the Amazon testimonials, but the ones on my website I do, and they are all genuine. But my client ones are literally, I change the client's name, I change the location, and I do change their story slightly. So only because I would hate for someone to even though I've got their permission to share their testimony, you still don't want someone else saying, oh, that's my friend down the road, she had an affair and ran. You just don't want that because it's private. So testimonies on Facebook are great. You won't ever see me do them because I just think what we do is quite personal, but that's my opinion. But the ones on my website are genuine, but I changed the name for confidentiality purposes, and I have, of course, so I just saw some writing at the bottom here. Well, that's interesting. I have, of course, got permission, but I changed the names and everything else. So once you've got all of that, you then have to get confident at what you do. And with me, over the years, because I am going to share a little bit of my story, I was useless on the internet. Now, all the things that I need to do, I'm able to do. So, one of the things are recordings. When you make recordings, you always put your name on the front. This recording's made by Lorraine Gleason. When you are recording hypnotherapy, remember to put that first paragraph before settling down to listen to recording. You should, to the best of ability, try to make sure you won't be disturbed for about the next half an hour. No driving, no operating machinery. You have to cover yourself. Make sure you put that paragraph on, but put your name on it. When you're sending an MP3 over to your clients that you're working to, because one of the things with people are nice. So when you're sending those recordings over, with this recordings made by Lorraine Gleason, odds are on they'll pass it on to their friends. And guess what? Their friends are here. By the way, don't put my name. Put your name. This recording's made by Lorraine Gleason. So without the clients realizing it, when they're passing their recordings on, they are marketing you again. It's free marketing. And there's nothing wrong, I think, with people passing recordings around to everybody. So recordings is another good way of marketing yourself. So we've got our websites. You've got your recordings. And your prices. All of it, you need to be confident with. I keep saying that. The key to being a successful hypnotherapist is confidence. And the other thing, one of the things I've really learned with training, which really, really surprised me, is how scared people are of getting things wrong. They are so frightened to have a go in case they get it wrong. Well, they shouldn't be in my life because I've never got anything right. When I start, all I do is I try again. Now, if you've just set up your practice and you're charging a really, really cheap price, you can afford to make mistakes. Now, if you've been trained properly, in my opinion, now I know all these trainers are allegedly script free. Trust me, they weren't when they started. Because if they were, the only way you would ever, in my opinion, be script free totally when you first start is if you've got a photographic memory. Because being a hypnotherapist is no different, well, actually, it is different than when you first learn to drive. When you've got that piece of qualification, you do not remember everything. Because if you do, you have got a photographic memory. And when I applied to be a hypnotherapist, at no point on the intake form was it said, "Do you have a photographic memory? Do you have a good memory?" If they've said, "Do you have a good memory?" I'd say no, because I haven't. So script free hypnotherapists, a lot of you, if you watch me work, you'd think I was script free. No, I'm not. I've memorized it. And if I haven't memorized stuff after 18 years, then I shouldn't be doing the job. But when I first started, what I wasn't aware of 18 years ago was the training school that I trained with originally. They gave me the best scripts. Now, scripts, oh my God, I read some of them now. They're not scripts, they're stories. Actually, there's one particular, I'm not going to say it, that all people write now are stories. All the language is lost. But I was very lucky that the training school I trained with, they actually were hypnotic scripts, not stories. They were scripts, and they had all the language in, all the fines, the nows, the notice, the direct suggestion, the indirect suggestions, the metaphors. They're absolutely, and I was lucky that I had that. I didn't know I was lucky, but I was. So it's important when you first start that you allow yourself to get things wrong. And one of the things I learned very early on is clients don't necessarily perform to how I was taught in the class. So you've got to work a lot on your intuition. I also do supervision, and there's a lovely lady that I've been supervising over the last couple of years up country somewhere. And we were on a supervision yesterday, and it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic, because I've been supervising her now, and she was trained by one of the many training schools that terrify you, that you can't do this, you can't work with this, you can't work with this, you can't. We're talking to people. So where she's had my supervision, and things have come on, and I've taught her different techniques and everything. And her training school, I think her training school was a set 6 sessions, and the trouble is, clients don't know what they're supposed to be. And, over the years, I've quietly tried to get her to understand that we are, yes, my formula is 5 sessions, but within that, there's adaptability. You need structure to have a certain amount, do this, this, and this. But within that framework, you have to veer off sometimes and deal with something. And of course, she started doing that, and it was just so funny listening to her. And then she said, "Yeah, and I was going to do this the following week, but when they arrived, my client was this, so I switched this, and I followed my intuition on this, and I did this, and I did that." And because I'm sat listening to her, and I'm just smiling, and and she looked at me, she said, "What are you smiling about, Lorraine?" I said, "Well, you now sound like a hypnotherapist." Because when you first start, you are a little bit rigid. I didn't say this bit to her, I'm saying this to you. When you first start, you've got you want people to fit exactly what you've been taught. Well, the fact is, unless the clients were in the class with you, not all of them are going to go that way. So it's learning to be flexible. It's learning to get things wrong. It's learning to change. And once you start going, and with me, it's very, very much on intuition. I follow my intuition. If I feel I need to do something, I do it. Um, it's just how it is. So, confidence. Now, I hear so often people saying, my training was rubbish. I wasn't trained to do this. I wasn't trained to do that. Well, there's enough research to find good trainers on there. Now, with my fully accredited diploma training, I think they're lucky. because I teach them a whole formula. I teach them lots of techniques. I actually tell them how to put everything together. I do watch them facilitate therapy. I watch them have therapy. And I absolutely pride myself, and I hope every single hypnotherapist that's done my diploma knows, whether they ended up liking me or hating me, because I'll also tell you when you're doing it's wrong. But the only reason I tell you that is because I want you to learn. And I have learned, that it's hard for people to take criticism, especially in this. I don't use the word feedback or anything else. I'll say, no, you've done that wrong. So I like to think that I equip them fully with a formula so they know how to go out at work. What I have noticed with other, um, I'm not saying all, but a lot of the training schools, they basically say you can't work with this, you can't work with that, you've got to get doctor's permission. I always think doctor's permission, good blood luck with that one. You can't get a doctor's appointment, let alone doctor's permission. And they terrify them of working with anybody that's got problems, which actually, when you're training as a hypnotherapist, you're training to help people with problems, but the schools say you can't unless you go on special training for this, special training for that, special training for this. Whereas at the HSOH, they don't need to do special. I don't know. I was gonna be stupid then. They don't have to do special training because no, I can't be unpolitically correct. So you can if you don't feel confident with the training that you have had, you can look at other trainers. Now, if there's any of you lot that's trained with me, do not go out training with other trainers till you've got good at, and I always say it's good at what I've taught you for a year. But if you do feel that there is some training missing, you can go, but don't overload yourself with training, because once you go to one training school, they'll tell you one thing, because remember, we're self-regulated. We're not regulated. So one trainer has got opinion of this. One of the things I've really noticed, no, I'm going to be biased. Men are very good at one set. They'll fix people in one session. They are so good, these one-shot wonders. That's great, and I'm sure they do. I don't want to fix people in one. I want to take my time. I want to make sure. I want to double check. I want to build inner beliefs. I want to build confidence. And to me, hypnotherapy is quick, but I don't think it's one-shot wonders. Yeah, I see, particularly when I've cured a phobia in 3 minutes. Well, well done you, I think. Let me see him in a year's time and see if it's gone, but that's just how I am. So if you're not happy with your training, pick a few trainers, not loads. And when you go along, have an open mind, because all of us trainers, because we're self-regulated, we have different views. Now, with me, you'll always hear me talk about it, my absolute skill set, and the absolute thing that I personally think every single hypnotherapist should have under their belt is the ID motor response, the IMR. That is my absolute skill set. The reason I love it so much is it bypasses the conscious subconscious mind. And part of why it is my skill set, my first training course that I went on, the teacher, we spent a day on it. That was it, one day. And we were told at the end of that day, it's hard to learn, it doesn't work, so don't bother. Hard to learn, doesn't work, don't bother. But it's a direct link to subconscious. And that's how my mind went. So I I developed it, and it is my absolute skill set. And I have many, many hypnotherapists, even now, who come on my workshops to learn IMR and regression when they've had all this other training. And I have lovely emails. And one guy in particular, he said, Lorraine, I can't thank you enough. I feel like a proper hypnotherapist now. And I've had several email me and say, oh my God, it changed my therapy totally. That's, to me, is the technique that I think every therapist, because it bypasses. And the other thing I think all of you should be able to do, without a shadow of a doubt, whether you can do IMR or not, if you're just doing indirect suggestion, if you're just doing techniques and you're doing forward pacing, you're doing swishes and everything else, at some point, when you've got a really stressed client, they will go into regression, whether you regress them or not. And to me, you have to know how, and I'm not talking about hypnoanalysis. Let's bump people through and torture them through every bad event they've had throughout the whole of their life. Not necessary. They remember what happened 5 years ago or 6 years ago, or even when they were 10 years old. You don't need to torture people. The way I do regression is very, very different to how everyone else does it. But that's because I'm skilled on the IMR. So I don't torture people, putting them all through the ages. But even if you don't do the IMR, you do need to know how to deal with regression. And very often you don't, I had a client last week. She was in my therapy chair, lovely lady. She'd come to me for weight loss. And I use the IMR. I'm counting back through her ages of her life to find her. And then suddenly I looked at her and she's got floods of tears. I don't need to do regression with her. She's in regression. And I literally said to her, I'm going to call her Shelley because that's the PA's name. Shelley, I can see you're upset there. And I was taught by Will, do not cuddle people. Let people, give them the privilege of expressing their emotions. So Shelley, I can see, is it an event that's upsetting you? She said, yeah. And I said, do you remember the event? She said, yeah. I went, right, I want you now as the adult. And I took straight into, I didn't need to do regression. She's in regression. When I have clients say, oh, I don't want to regress because this happened. You don't need to regress them. They're living it every day of their life. And I will simply say, I won't regress you, but is it okay if we just deal with it? And they'll say, yeah, I'll do inner child, I'll do gestalt, and I deal with it. When people are living their misery, trying to ignore that it happened and them living it every single day, in my opinion, is no way to be. Now, I know Shelley, my PA, she wanted you to really tell my ultimate story, which when she said that, it does embarrass me a bit, but as she said, I will. Now, with me, when I set up my hypnotherapy business 18 years ago, the actual reason I went to a hypnotherapist was because I was in such a bad space. I had no money. I had 2 young children. I was in debt. I had a coffee shop hanging around my neck that wasn't making money. And I was in a pretty bad way. And I was very, very unhappy. And when someone said, see a hypnotherapist, I just looked at them and said, what are they going to do? But from it, I trained as a hypnotherapist, built up my room 101, always had a little therapy room at home as well. The coffee shop went, and from the coffee shop, I had to build a business totally as a hypnotherapy. And my children weren't so young then because each year they get older. So they were teenagers when eventually got rid of the coffee shop. And from there, I've now rent a room, which 10 years ago in the Technopole. I opened my training school. I own my house. I've paid off my mortgage. This is all from hypnotherapy and opening my training school. I've paid off my mortgage. I feel embarrassed when I say this. I bought a brand new car. And I have lots of holidays. And life for me is an enjoyable experience, day by day, in every way. I just feel better and better. So helping people, having worth in yourself, starting off cheap, building your confidence up, doing networking, starting off again at the cheap networking, the free networking, then joining, if you like being up at 7 a.m. in the morning, well, up at a meeting at 7 a.m. in the morning, there's BNI. Although having said that, all the BNIs and the 4N networkings, they now do lunchtime meetings, evening meetings. It's just massive. You start building, you're giving out business cards to every client that you've worked with. You've got a website and it's a proper website. You're charging what you feel confident and comfortable with charging. Take no notice of what all these other trainers are saying. They started somewhere too. You've got good scripts. And by scripts, I don't mean stories. Anyone can read a story. check that they are proper hypnosis. And then what happens when you're continuously delivering proper hypnosis, you naturally start ad-libbing. You naturally start doing all the visuals, audio, kinesthetics, all the repetitions, all the finds, the nows, the notice, and more and more and more. And you will naturally be feeding in hypnosis. And it isn't the scripts, it's the techniques you need to learn. It's like I say to my lot, they're all armed with good scripts. One induction. I don't need loads of inductions. I honestly don't think people struggle with relaxing. You just say, just close your eyes and relax, and I'm going to go. But that's just another, that may be for another podcast. You've got it's the techniques in the middle. That's what you need to learn off by heart. That's when you swing from one technique to another technique to actually work with the client, as opposed to making them fit your therapy. Then just relax at the end, calm yourself down, and as long as you've got a good script, read it. And then when the client comes up looking amazingly relaxed and wonderful, and you've helped them, your confidence grows. And then when you've seen that client, and if there are some of these amazing hypnotists that cure people in one session, which I'm sure there are, you don't have to. Some people have abandonment issues. Some people, I personally see a hypnotherapist every couple of months. You know why? I like it. I like feeling good. I like relaxing. And when I've got problems, I just say, can we deal with this? And can we deal with that? Because nothing wrong with spending time on your mind, your positive thinking, your confidence, your feel good factor. In my opinion, the whole world every couple of months would see a hypnotherapist, even if it's just to relax, just to take an hour and a half out of their lives to spend on them, to relax and just close their eyes and focus on their needs. But that's the way I am. So confidence, making sure that you're happy with what you're delivering, and repetition. And when you are really, really good at, and don't, going on loads of different training courses, doing a CPD with this teacher, a CPD with that teacher. Should I tell you what that'll do? Confuse you. Find a trainer that you like. Stick with them. Get confident. And then when you're really confident at what you do, you then go on training courses, and within nanoseconds you pick up the different technique, and what you learn is most of the techniques anyway. All that happens is people change and adapt the techniques and add another little bit into it. So hopefully you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, and I haven't waffled too much, and I did get in my story at the end. And being successful is actually 3 things: take action, take action, take action. So thank you.